Oh, so 2 on the dot. How about we start? So I just want to say a warm welcome to everyone. Welcome to the Next Tech Girls Black History Month panel event. So for those of you that don't know, Next Tech Girls is a social enterprise that works towards helping young people, especially girls and young women, to pursue a future career in tech and like enter the tech industry. So they have that goal of trying to close that gender gap in the tech industry, and they do that mainly through work experience placements, but also online events, so such as this one. So tech also does have that ethnicity gap, so Next Tech Girls wants to try and close this too. And this year, Next Tech Girls had 80% of their work experience participants coming from an ethnic minority background, and 40% came from the Black African Caribbean background. So, Black History Month is an annual reminder to celebrate and recognize and reflect on those experiences of Black people throughout history. And of course, this year's theme is saluting our sisters. So, we'll be focusing on Black women's achievements in different sectors. And that's why Next Tech Girls thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to shine a light on some of the brilliant Black women working in the tech industry. So a little bit about me. I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Naamua. I'm a graduate software engineer, currently working at Tesco, and I'm actually a Next Tech Girls alumna. So back in 2016 and 2017, I took part in 3 work experience placements thanks to Next Tech Girls. And honestly, it helped me so much because it really reassured that this was the route that I wanted to go down. So yeah, today's event will be a Q&A, and I'll be chairing this panel, I'll be facilitating it. And I have prepared some questions. However, if anyone does have any questions, then feel free to put it in the chat and I'll be taking a look. For those of you that are in school, in classrooms, if you have any questions, then please do let your teachers know and they can, again, put it in the chat and I'll take a look through that. So I'll try and answer as many questions as possible. If there are lots left at the end, then we can try and maybe answer some more questions via email. And the last thing I want to mention is it's being recorded. If you can't tell, it is being recorded. You can see at the top corner. So if anyone needs to drop off early, or if you just want to watch it back, we can share that with you so that you can watch it back. Yeah, so we have our 3 panelists here. So can I ask you to introduce yourselves? Hannah, how about we start with you?
Okay, yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm a level 6 digital and technology solutions degree apprentice at IBM. I'm currently in my 3rd year. Really excited to join all of you guys today and talk a bit more about my experience as well.
Thank you, Hannah. How about you, Sumaya? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Sumaya. I'm a UX designer and I'm at Just Eat Takeaway.
Nice
to see you all.
Nice to see you too. And Fatma, go for it.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Fatma. I work as a data engineer here at BT.
Nice. Well, thank you all of you for taking part. So I just want to start off with an initial question of how did you get into tech and what's been your journey with your current role?
Just gonna kick it off. I don't mind starting. So the question again, please.
Yeah, sure. So how did you get into the tech career? Like what's been your journey into the position you're in now at IBM? What's your position been? What's your journey been?
Yeah, so I actually got into IBM through a degree apprenticeship program straight from sixth form. So I was 18, got into the corporate world quite young. So yeah, as you can imagine, it was quite an adjustment, but yeah, quite a smooth process, I'd say. I started off in one role. I've had the opportunity to experience quite a few different roles in tech. So I started off as a software developer. I then got to explore the Scrum Master type role, and then I moved over to my current role, which is a business analyst. So in the 2 years that I've been working in tech, I've had like lots of amazing opportunities, and yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. What about you, Sumaya?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a long journey into my position as a UX designer today. I actually did my degree in midwifery initially, and I used to be a midwife. I quite quickly realized that it just wasn't the career path for me. mainly because it was quite a stressful job. And I don't know if anyone here has maybe worked in the NHS or even been to a hospital before, probably. It is very, very stressful in those environments. And I really quickly realized that I needed to find something new. So I then did a master's in computer science. Doing my master's in computer science, I again realized I actually don't like coding. So it was quite a big trial and error thing for me. And after I finished my degree in computer science, I just sort of worked on my own projects, and I started like doing my own designs. A lot of the stuff that I did was mainly personal work that I did. And then yeah, I became a UX designer that way. And this is my first role at the moment.
Thank you, Sumaya. And how about you, Fatma?
Yes, so how do I get into tech? Essentially, my background is an undergrad in international relations and English language. Worked in a school for a year, realised I'm not suited to be a teacher. Massive respect to them, but I could not do it. And like me, I found out about a Masters of Computer Science. If anyone wasn't aware, you can take up a Masters in Computer Science. They take on anyone from any background. So I had a year to spare, did that. Loved it, but didn't quite have the experience to get into roles, right? Didn't have the confidence to get into them. And that's where I went back to Code First Girls, who I'd initially done some introduction to web development courses with. So I went back to them as a teacher, taught a bunch of the courses, and then learned about a CFG degree that they were doing behind the scenes, a boot camp to get more women into tech. And it was through that opportunity that I got sponsored by BT. And since entering it, I worked as a data engineer ever since, nearing 2 years now, actually, coming up next week. But that's how I got into tech.
Nice, nice. And I think it's cool because we have that mix of, for example, Hannah and I going in straight through, like from school, straight into the tech industry, and you two kind of making that change. It proves that you don't need to know right at the start that that's exactly what you want to do, which does actually lead on to my next question of what did you think you were going to be when you were growing up? Like when you were younger, what did you want to be? Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I like this question because, like, even I was studying like English language and international relations and working and stuff, even like at placement during school. I always knew I'd be an engineer in the back of my mind because I feel like I always say this is the one field I feel like there's so many avenues to get in, right? Whether you're traditionally gone to school and like followed that through all the way to uni, whether you've done a coding boot camp like myself, or whether you've been self-taught, right? I would read stories of people who've been self-taught every single day. And growing up, I was that person to like, create little layouts for myself on like little those kid game websites like Neopets and stuff. And I'd like love coding up like HTML layouts and stuff. It was really fun for me. So I always known I'd be an engineer, but it was just more about like, how do I get in? And thankfully I got the opportunity a lot earlier than later in life. So that was it's nice to be here now, essentially, realizing that dream.
Yeah,
no,
I would say
cool.
I'm the complete opposite to Fatma, in the sense that I never knew what I wanted to do. I think coming from an African household as well, my mum always wanted me to do something science related, there's nothing healthcare related, and I'm also the first in family to go to university as well. So it was a thing where there was a bit of pressure on me to do something that was like healthcare related. I think looking back now though, I always wanted to be a journalist. Like that was big for me. I was always really interested in politics. I really liked learning about different countries and different cultures, and I always wanted to be like a journalist who'd be like reporting from different countries in the world. Maybe I'll do that someday in the future. I don't know. Maybe we'll incorporate tech some sort of way. But I think as well, looking at my UX design job now, I have always had that creative side that I never felt like I was able to explore when it came to the healthcare background. So I'm definitely like very happy to be in this position.
Yeah, like Sumaya, I would say I was quite indecisive on like what I wanted to do in the future. It would change every day, basically. At one point, I wanted to be a journalist, then it was a doctor. Then I was pretty adamant on like banking and finance. I realized this is really for me. So it was like just going around all the different things available to me, the different sectors I could get into, and just seeing what is actually for me. And then upon a conversation with my brother, he taught me more about the tech industry. I had a lot of misconceptions about it. I kind of associated it with literally just staring at a screen all day, every day, doing programming. But then when he started telling me a bit more about tech, I was like, oh, like, let me explore this for myself. So that's when I took it upon myself to go and experience different tech work experience programs in sixth form. And that like opened me up to what tech is really about and the diversity in tech and the different roles that you can do. So from there, I finally landed and settled on tech. And yeah, after that, I knew it was for me, and I don't see myself probably working in any other industry now. So yeah.
That's good to hear. Like, it's good to hear that there's like no regrets or anything like that. Me personally, growing up, I thought I was gonna be a Google Doodler. That was not like actually a job, but you know how like Google has the little logos that they change for like specific birthdays and things. I thought, wow, this is cool. This looks fun. This is what I want to be. And then I realized it's not really like an official job, but growing up, I liked problem solving and all of that. And that's why I thought, okay, programming seems cool. It's like a puzzle. It's like you're solving a puzzle every single day, which is why I went down that route of computer science at GCSE and A level, and then a degree onto becoming a graduate software engineer. So I guess unlike you, I kind of had it in the back of my mind, but it's cool that you kind of like you were all deciding through like different career paths and then you settled on tech. But Sumaya, you did also touch on the fact that growing up with like your family influence that there was a chance that you weren't really going to consider tech because it doesn't typically get pushed in households from African and Caribbean backgrounds. So I actually wanted to ask the three of you, what is your heritage? Where do you come from?
So I'm originally from Somalia. I was born and bred in London, but originally I'm from Somalia.
Yep. Born and raised in London, UK as well, but my ethnicity is Nigerian. Yeah, West Africa.
Yeah, and I'm born and raised in the UK. I'm originally from Libya, so North Africa.
Okay, same. Yeah, born and raised in the UK, but originally from Ghana. But following on from that, do you think it played a part? Was there ever like a point where you thought, oh, maybe technology isn't for me because I don't really fit the stereotype? It is a common misconception that it's just for boys, and it does typically tend to be white male dominated. So, did you ever have any doubts when entering the tech industry?
I would say for myself, I think it was more of the fact that I didn't actually know that design existed. I think whenever you think of the tech industry, the first thing you think is about a software engineer. You have to know how to code and all those sort of things. Whereas I never knew there was a side of design that you could be creative and that you could like explore that side, and that it was actually quite a female-dominated sort of like job as well. Like my entire team are women, which I think is amazing. But I would say definitely, even within design as well, that I think there's a lot of, I would say it's very, very white still. I think there's a lot of places to go when it comes to diversity. But I think for me, it was just a thing where even today, like when I tell my mom I'm a UX designer, she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand. She knows that I work in tech, but she doesn't fully understand what it means. And I would say that it's really important in our communities that we know what avenues there are within tech as well, and that you don't have to necessarily only be someone who's a software engineer or like a bit product manager or anything else. Like there are other sort of roles you can go into.
Yeah, to jump in here also to add to that, because I come from a Libyan background, so Arab household, and I am very much the first, from what I can tell, of my not just direct family, but like extended families even gone into tech. And I think I'm quite fortunate to have my dad be very kind of forward thinking and like supportive on that, even though he would have preferred for me to become a doctor like himself. But yeah, that's not for me right now. But I think it's also about kind of growing up not having people to look to or look up to that look like you, who are working in this field. So you kind of don't have that link into it, and you also kind of don't know or you aren't aware of what even is tech or what's inside of it, right? And you learn about that. At least for me, my experience was just attending events, and like it's like this one here. Like I've attended so many panel events trying to understand like what is tech, what are the roles in tech, what do people do every day. And I think through that, and especially through seeing people like myself in these panels, I was able to kind of figure out and navigate through the landscape of tech. Because even though I managed to make it in, I still didn't even know like what's the wealth of roles available, or the things that people do, or how people function in tech. So that's why I think these kind of roles are really, these kind of events are really crucial, even if you don't see that direct representation within your own space.
Yeah, I would say growing up Nigerian, there were other obviously more high earning roles or jobs, like, you know, being a doctor, going into law, things like that were kind of pushed. But I'd say, yeah, I had my older brother had a big influence on, you know, the kind of things that I was obviously educated myself on. And then I eventually got into tech. And once my brother spoke to my mum about things like this and tech and like the different opportunities, I guess that kind of helped me in that sense. And obviously these first-hand experiences are so important. I feel like the reason why I possibly never really considered tech before is because I didn't have that experience. I had the misconceptions around programming and things like that. So when I did eventually take the initiative to go and see it for myself, and, you know, had opportunities with like Unilever, Accenture, and seeing what the workplace is actually like and seeing how diverse it is, I realized that, yeah, loads of misconceptions I held previously. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And obviously now that I've been in it, I can tell my mum and like other people about what tech really is about. So yeah.
You know, representation is everything. I feel like growing up, if you don't see someone like you in those sort of roles, it can be a bit daunting to take that leap. Obviously, it's great to go for it, but it can be a bit scary at times, or even just lack of exposure, not understanding what different types of roles there are. Everyone, like you said, it's always about coding, coding, coding. And I mean, from my point of view, it is because I am a software engineer, but there are so many other roles. And actually, I wanted to ask, could each of you, it might be a similar answer for the three of you, but could each of you sort of like explain the different types of roles in your team? Like, who are you working with? What are the other roles within your team? Just to kind of explain to our audience what the other types of roles are and how you collaborate with different people.
So in my team, I work in service design at the moment. So I work with a lot of other service designers, but I'm currently in an incubator team as well, which we work alongside business analysts, we work alongside software engineers, user experience researchers, product managers, delivery managers, just a lot of different kinds of people, and everyone has a sort of role. So it's like a multidisciplinary environment. So everyone brings their own expertise, and they're able to we're able to work together quite well.
Yeah, I'm currently working in like a software development team. So there's a few different roles in our team. Obviously, as I said earlier, I'm a business analyst. So I have someone else that I work quite closely with, but we also have 2 engineers on our team, because obviously they're the ones really getting in, doing the programming, helping to build the app. And then we also have the testers that help to obviously make sure everything's going to plan, test what we've got on and see if there's anything we need to improve. And then we have one main scrum master who helps to, I guess, organize the team and get the events running, get the meetings running, making sure everyone's on the same page. And as a business analyst, we work quite closely with the users to make sure that their requirements are being met and getting feedback that we then put back to the engineers who put it all into something. So yeah.
And for myself, I work in a data team. So we've got a team of data engineers like myself. We've got the product owner who kind of oversees a lot of the work streams, and they basically kind of look at what the work we're doing and how we present it best to users. Like there could be dashboards, or it could be tables, it could be all sorts, right? And then we also have our scrum master who kind of day-to-day oversees like our activities, and gives that product overview to the business users like on a weekly basis, something like that. And we have our data architects who will design our solutions that we engineers will just come in and code along and build up in the cloud. That's basically a typical data team in my experience.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's nice hearing like the different range, because again, I feel like people always assume that maybe it's just like a group of software engineers coding in a dark room, trying to solve a problem or build a website, all that sort of stuff. But speaking of your teams, I know, Sumaya, you did say that you are surrounded by quite a lot of women actually, but I just wanted to ask in general, in your experience since joining the tech industry, working in your teams, do you feel different being a Black woman in your team?
I'd love to jump in here. I feel like it's interesting you say this, right? Because I love my team. I absolutely love them. Since joining, I've never had any issues. I've always just been made to feel like an engineer. And that's what I've found typically like working in tech so far. I also know that we have some challenges that currently exist, all right? I'm not blind to them. In other teams, my other colleagues in other areas of BT maybe have faced some types of comments, maybe passive and non-passive, being thrown around, and they make you feel uncomfortable. And, you know, it's about finding those avenues and how to raise them and getting educated on all of your kind of rights in organizations and the policies and how to escalate things if they need escalating. So thankfully, I've been really supportive on managers on that front. But in terms of feeling conscious as a Black woman in tech, I thankfully haven't felt that until recently, when there was kind of a mobiles all hands work stack review, and it was really great kind of to come into this meeting, and it was really high level. I'm talking about managers, kind of all these senior technical people getting together. I'm talking about reviewing all the areas that we're working in under mobile. So I work in mobile data, and we were talking about the technical solutions, right? What the actual tools we're using, how we're moving forward, progressing to the wider kind of vision. And I couldn't help but notice it. I'm looking at a room of mainly white men, and there must have been a few people of color, but they were also men. And again, I know for a fact that if I was to work with these people, I wouldn't be made to feel any type of way, but it was kind of a reminder that there is still a barrier in getting more women into these mid to senior level spaces. And so essentially just there's more work to be done, and there is work being done, and we'll get there eventually. But I think when I think of, are you reminded or felt, do you feel conscious of it at any point in time? Not really, but in some moments I do.
On my side, I think in the sense of me being a woman, I would say I'm quite lucky that I work in a team of 5 women, and they are very, very supportive. I am the only Black woman. However, some of my team are women of color as well, so they are very understanding. Everyone on my team is really, really understanding. Compared to like my work in the NHS, I would say I feel like I'm much happier now when it comes to being a Black woman, only because I struggled a lot when it came to like racism, unfortunately, when I worked as a midwife in the NHS. Whereas now it's really strange having to work in an environment which I think is more dominated with men, and I would say it is quite multicultural at my company, but I would say still at a senior level, there's a lot of work to go when it comes to like people in higher positions who are Black and who are women as well. But I would say that I feel like I don't face as much as like the microaggressions that I do remember experience. For example, people mixing me up with another Black woman who wears a headscarf, or people like not getting my name right, or saying, oh, your name's too hard to remember, like stuff like that I experienced a lot in the NHS. I feel like specifically at the company that I work at, are things that they really try to make sure they don't do, which is really, really refreshing to see. And also, like, one of the things that I really struggled with was people, especially men, talking to me, or older men talking to me, or older women talking to me as if I'm a child, because they think you're young, they think they can speak to you quite like in that sort of way. And surprisingly, I've experienced even the people in higher management places at my company have been really like nice, and they've been really good at speaking to you on a level which I think is actually really refreshing to see, and is so important, because at the end of the day, you're a professional, even regardless of what hierarchy you're in. It doesn't matter. Every single person here is to do like doing work basically. So I find I'm definitely like surprised at how good my experience has been so far.
Yeah, I would say in my team currently, there is a fair split between male and female. So, you know, it's not something that I know is too much. I'd say, okay, there's quite a few women on the team with me. Say in other teams, you could tell that obviously as tech is a male-dominated industry, you can see that there was obviously noticeably more men on the team, and there was at times that I was literally the only girl on the team, and it would be something that I noticed. However, I'd say that I've had fairly positive experiences as a Black woman in tech. So generally my company does push diversity and inclusion, and I genuinely feel that in the way that they operate. So I wouldn't say necessarily I've had too many things, which I'd say I'm quite fortunate about, but I am obviously aware that I am a Black woman in tech. And, you know, sometimes I feel like maybe I put pressure on myself to make sure I'm like achieving what I need to achieve because I am Black, and there is this thing that you just don't want to look like you're letting the team down, and I feel like I do put that pressure on myself slightly. But apart from that, I'm quite fortunate in the sense that I've had fairly positive experiences, and yeah, they do push it. There's lots of Black events happening in my company, loads of things that I can get involved in for young professionals and just generally as well. So I get to mix with quite a few Black professionals in my company. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to hear that you're supported and welcomed. I feel like it's important for tech industries to welcome that change and that diversity because I always like to say if you're going to be in a tech company and deliver a solution that should solve problems for the whole society, then you need those diverse minds behind it to build those solutions. Otherwise, things won't be represented as well as they could be. So it's good that you're working with people and collaborating with people in a way where you feel comfortable and you feel safe. And obviously it's good to speak up if anything is different. But in terms of like working with your teams, I wanted to ask, so because tech companies typically do have that flexible way of working, especially now post-COVID, a lot of people work hybrid, so sometimes in the office, sometimes at home, even flexible hours. How is it for each of you? Do you have that hybrid structure? How do you balance that sort of that break between working from home and working in the office? How do you manage that?
So for myself, my office, we have a hybrid working model. So we can come in twice a week, and then for the other 3 days a week, we can work from home. This week I'm coming in 4 times, but that's only because we're doing a hackathon, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, it's my first hackathon, which I'm really excited about. So, but usually it's 2 days a week that I come into the office, which is quite nice. You save a lot of money on travel.
I quite like that as well because in my company as well they encourage hybrid working. So I'm typically on client site like max 3 times a week, but usually it's just 2 times a week. And yeah, I get that flexibility to work from home and I have that independence. I can do things on my own accord kind of thing. As long as I get it done and I work within the timelines, it gives me that flexibility. I'd probably say that's my favorite part about my role and working in tech. Yeah.
Think same here as well, very flexible. We have a motto BT, 3 together, 2 wherever. So 3 days in the office and then 2 years wherever you want. I always want to work at a cafe, so long as you go, data-wise secure, everything's fine really. But yeah, and some people go in more frequently, some people less frequently. It's dependent on the companies. Like I have a friend who works in another company and their engineering team have decided that they just need to come in once a month. And that's just to help them be efficient as they can be, really. So yeah, it's dependent on the company, but I really enjoy this working model.
Yeah, I think it works because it gives you that chance to work independently from home, have your own comfort space, but also work in the office. You get to collaborate, you get to sit next to the people that you're working with, usually on the daily, and actually go over and have some conversations. And I wanted to ask, so working that hybrid style, at least for me personally, in the first team, so I'm on a rotational graduate scheme, which means I do jump from team to team. In my first team, I think because I was still new to the company, new to the industry in general, I had learnt concepts and techniques at school and at university, but applying that in the industry was a big change for me. And I was placed in a team that was primarily based in India. So it was like a very, very big gap, had the time difference. At times, I would say it was a little bit isolating, but I think once I knew what I was doing and I knew how to work with the team, then things got better. So I wanted to ask, did you ever have any experience of that where working separately, working remotely made you feel any sort of way?
I feel like I have to jump in here because I faced that exact situation where I've joined this team. In fact, I'd done a coding bootcamp in software specialization, but I'd entered into a data role. I didn't have specific data training, so I spent a lot of my time just on my own doing data training or data engineering learning. They would give me recommendations, but really they were doing their own work. I was joining meetings in the morning, then trying to understand what they're talking about. Went right over my head, didn't really get it. They weren't next to me. No one in my team was at my base location. The majority of my team was in India, and the few that were UK-based employees were at Bristol. So I was truly on my own for the first like 2 months working. But I think what I've seen, and it definitely that worked in my role, and what I see in other roles, and if I mentor people, this is what I recommend for them to kind of advocate for, is having a type of buddy situation where you get buddied up with someone or a few people. And for me, I was strategically placed in a really small project with a small team. There was like 2 other engineers that are both based in India, and over time they would throw me like little tasks, little baby tasks, like change the column names for this table and push your code and see that happen. I was so excited, my first commit, my first push of change of code. But it allowed me to basically have that direct support because I had someone to reach out to like after every stand up, and I was given a task to work on, and I was like, oh, hey, can I jump on a call with you? I know what I'm doing, can you help me out? And they were really patient with me, and they kind of walked me through the solution, how to do it, and then left me to it to basically apply. And it's what I found in other teams, at least my colleagues have usually found that same thing, where typically you get partnered with someone more experienced in the project, and they will help you through it. And as you work your way up, you'll be given more challenging tasks, whether you might be pair programming with someone maybe more junior like yourself, or you have a senior person to help support you on that, until you get to a position where one day you look back and you're the senior person in the team and you're helping to support the newer people joining your team. So that's kind of been my experience so far.
For myself, I would say I'm definitely more of a people person. I really, really think the interpersonal relationships, like talking to people, is so important. Sometimes when you work from home and you like get a message on Slack, sometimes it's kind of hard to gauge what someone means, especially if you've got like someone who's really busy, who's a manager, for example. It can be quite difficult. But I think, just like Fatma was saying, I think it's really, really important to just be like, someone, can you please help me out, and just message them and ask them for a call. And usually a lot of them are very, very open to actually speaking to you and actually offering you that support as well. But yeah, no, I think I'm quite lucky in the sense that my entire team are based in London, and we do have like team days every week, so it's a bit easier to be able to communicate and actually speak to each other about things. I haven't experienced working with anyone abroad just yet, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've always worked fairly closely with my team, so I haven't necessarily struggled in that sense. But in terms of like being an apprentice, as you can imagine, there's loads of new things that I'm not quite sure about. Loads of things that I often struggle with at times, like with meetings, there'll be things that I just do not understand. However, my company very big on just asking for a call, and then that kind of gets sorted out. So in that sense, people have been quite receptive and understanding that I am an apprentice. So I don't think necessarily I've struggled in that sense, luckily. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say the theme really is ask, ask, and ask again. With my experience of being in that team that was primarily India-based, it taught me to reach out and ask for help, because otherwise it does feel really like daunting and scary, thinking, oh my goodness, what do I do? They're all like miles away, coding away, and I'm like, I need all the support and help. But yeah, no, it does get better, and yeah, no. I'm trying to think. I had a question in my mind and now it slipped. What was I going to ask? Oh no, I wanted to ask, so it's kind of about like what you've learned over your like career history. I know there isn't much of a history for you, Hannah, but just what you've learned over the years. What have you taken from your journey into tech, and what you've learned since being in the tech industry? What have you taken that makes you who you are today?
For myself, I would say it's taking the skills that I've learned from my midwifery background into the UX side. And that's something that I kind of initially struggled with, because I was just a bit like, how do I take delivering babies and like apply that to making designs, and I actually found quite a few things that I could actually apply. One of those things was like communication. When you're in a room with someone who's having a baby and they're screaming their head off, you have to figure out a way to speak to them, and that is the same thing with UX. It's like you have to be someone who can communicate with people. And a second thing is empathy, like being able to empathize with the user is so important, and that's the same thing when it comes to midwifery. Like you have to be able to empathize with the person that you're helping. And one thing that I always say, and like my manager even says, it's like a quote that she likes me to use apparently, it's that I used to be an advocate for the woman when it came to all the partner or like the person who's given birth. I used to be an advocate for that person, and today I'm the advocate for the user. So it's really nice to be able to like apply the learning that I've done from my midwifery background and put it into my UX. And also, even though obviously it took me a while to get here, I still feel like I'm so happy that I experienced everything that I did, because it's made me a better designer today. And I feel like I know so much more now. And I feel like if I was to do this straight from university, I probably would have struggled a lot more. Whereas the skills set that I picked up from my midwifery background has like made me do so much better and like be so much happier now. So yeah, that's what I've learned.
I'd say naturally I've always been quite a shy person up until probably sixth form. So yeah, it's just been something that coming out of my shell has been something that I've been trying to get used to. And I feel like my tech role has really pushed that out of me, especially being client focused, learning how to talk to clients. I really like upskilled on my communication skills, I'd say. And yeah, it's made me who I am today. It's made me go out for more opportunities, especially like networking within the company, go into socials. I'm not necessarily the type to do that. I typically stick to myself kind of thing, but I've seen the importance in, you know, really going up your comfort zone. So I'd say just getting into tech from a young age has really pushed me and helped me grow and develop a lot more. So I'm quite happy about that.
Nice. For myself, I feel like something I've learned about myself is the importance of advocacy. I mean, I've always had like that strong personality when it comes to those stuff. Any injustices that I see, I'm like, that can't happen. Let's, you know, do something about it. But it's about recognizing that you may face situations in the workspace or with people, especially because, you know, we are underrepresented in this space. So it's being mindful of that, and more in the sense that if and when things happen, knowing how to tackle it. Because again, while I've been placed in a really great position with a really great team, I've mentored a lot of women, I've bodied up with a lot of women, and I've seen colleagues through this as well, where I've either helped them navigate how to raise certain things. And it's just time and time again showed me that actually it's not, you don't have to stay quiet on certain comments being made, where, you know, if you feel it in your gut, because usually they're passive comments, right? But you feel a type of way, and if it's made you feel a type of way, it's okay to question it. And having that support around you of like women, and thankfully I'm again like came into this to BT with a cohort of women, and because they keep taking in cohorts through the boot camp, this cohort just keeps expanding, and it's just more women that you can talk to and kind of get a second opinion, like, you know, I felt that type of way about this, and, you know, what do I do? So for me, again, it's about leaning into that and then sharing that forwards to others, especially people that I mentor or buddy with, because I think it's important, the power of your community. And I think that's where you derive that power from as well, especially for myself when I've ever found myself in those situations.
Yeah, I'd say from the three of you, kind of combining that putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, having that empathy and really like improving on communication skills and building that community, I feel like it's also important to kind of like hype yourself up, big yourself up, because as Black women, I guess we are kind of like pushed aside sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And what I've learned is that it's important to really like celebrate your success, whether it's big success, small success, that you just any success, all those sort of achievements. It's really good to recognize it in yourself and also kind of make it known with your community, make it known with your network and everyone around you, because that's the only way we're going to get recognized. If we really like say, hey, I did this today, this is like cool, I want people to know about it. But yeah, so in your day to day, I wanted to ask, like, what would you say the best part is in your day job typically?
I'm going to be so geeky here. I know you've talked about the difference between, you know, hybrid work and flexible working. And, you know, we have sometimes a stereotype of engineers being at home and coding all day. I actually really enjoy that part of my job. You know, we have different personalities and that range and suit for different things. For me, the best part of my job is when I'm actively working on engineering tasks. So it's funny because today I have a really big issue that I need solving, and it's just I'm really stuck on it. But it's like layers upon layers upon layers. I'm gonna have to like drill down deep into to then build up a solution out of it. And I really enjoy those tasks when I get to those points in my day where I'm sat working on a certain challenge. But also I do really enjoy the fact that we can all kind of as a team go together, like go apart, sorry, and like code up our certain aspects, and then the next day come together and see how far we've progressed. And then it's like in a week we've just made so much progress that we present back to our business users to be like, well, now we have your data here and we've transformed your reporting from taking 1 week to generate to under 5 minutes. It's really cool stuff. So that's kind of the fun part that I find.
I would say I really enjoy the collaborative working sort of thing when it comes to my work. Right now, for example, I'm working on a specific PowerPoint deck that I'm currently working on, and being able to like contact my colleagues and the other service designers in the team and ask them for their feedback. We have this like every week we usually have like a work in progress where we go through all the work that we've all done, and I really enjoy it because it's like even though I'm probably the most junior person on the team, they still like will be very happy to take my input as well as give me input as well. And I feel like even if it's like negative or like critical feedback, I feel like I learn so much just from it. So yeah, I would say I really enjoy like the collaborative working environment.
Yeah, I would say I just like seeing, I guess, the impact of my work. It's not just, it goes beyond just working within your team. You're actually impacting the world positively. You're contributing to the digital experiences that the world enjoys today. So I guess just seeing that what I'm doing is actually positively impacting the world, I think that's a really cool and rewarding part about being a business analyst and doing me, I suppose. Yeah.
You know, I think it's great to solve these solutions to help others as well as yourself. It's sort of that personal growth and kind of like rephrasing one of the questions from the chat about having that personal growth. How do you learn on the job? Because I feel like every single day, especially in the tech industry where everything's chopping and changing, it's all really flexible. How do you go about learning on the job?
I'm thinking about it.
It
I
sounds
feel
like you know everything then.
yeah. No, I don't know everything, please. I'm trying to think about how I go about it. I think for me, it's just asking questions, like just going out of your way to like message the people that you need to speak to, even if it's like someone from a different team, just asking them like for some help on something or just asking what something means. Even if like I would say, especially when you've just started as well, that's the best time to ask questions. And the one thing I like as well is in my team, as well as everyone else I've spoken to within the UX team, no one really makes you ever feel stupid about asking questions, even if they're questions that are like easy to anyone else. And it's strange because I actually look back at my midwifery and I remember people taking like the piss out of me a little bit when I asked questions. Like I'd ask questions about, I remember I once asked a midwife what analgesia means, which is basically pain relief. And I didn't know what it was because I just started my degree. And I remember she laughed in my face and it made me feel a type of way about asking questions. But the one thing I really like about the team that I work in now is that no one, even if it's a question that seems like such an obvious answer, they won't say anything to you and they won't make you feel bad about it, which I think is so important. And I feel like I'm trying to do to other people as well when it comes to people asking me questions.
That's so true. And I feel like I relate to this because oh my God, when I first joined BT and I'd ask this really senior guy who I have massive respect for, he was one of the senior architects in our team. Like he was the go-to guy for everyone, right? And he was a super busy person. But I'd message him on Teams like, hi, Aaron, what's a stand-up? How do I organize one? And he'd explain it and he'd break it down to me and he'd explain it for me, right? And this is what it is and this is how you would set it up. And I've just found that to be consistent, right? To anyone I've asked questions to, even if I'm just interested in something, right? Like a technology that we're using or a type of solution that has been proposed. I'm like, oh, I don't quite understand this. Can you like explain this to me? And they'll sit with me like during lunch, or like even like my manager would set up certain meetings where he's like, you know what, let's have a showcasing session. Let's talk about the projects we're doing and showcase them back to within ourselves so that we can all learn from it, right? And I think that at BT as well, there's a massive push for just even continuous learning, because working in tech, as we know, things change constantly, right? And we're always pushing to get like the better solutions or use newer tech and see how it supports our current work, right? So I've had the opportunity within my first 2 years to get certified in Google Cloud certifications, which I've really enjoyed doing. It's kind of forced me to learn about data engineering, but also get a professional level certificate out of it. And I'm continuing on forward to do more training in machine learning now, fingers crossed if I could take the exam and pass it. But it's all these opportunities that you can find within different workspaces that they will push for you to do. And actually it's funny because I'm also doing the apprenticeship as well, which I didn't even know was a thing. So, you know, if you ever do join a company, this is also a thing that gets pushed around, is you can, as an existing employee, do a degree apprenticeship. So hopefully by January, if I finish my application, I can do a master's in data analytics, because like I said, I joined a data role but not without official data training. So there's always opportunities for you to continue learning even when you have managed to get a role in tech.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the other two have said it all, really. I feel like, especially for me as an apprentice, asking those questions really helped to support with my on-the-job training and getting better. Without questions, you know, you're just going to be stuck there. I initially used to struggle with that as well, but I realized asking questions goes a long way. And a lot of the time they are ready to receive the questions. They actually do like the questions. They encourage them as well. And yeah, it just helps with your growth. So for me, questions is a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. And Hannah, we do have another question here for you in the chat, and it's about understanding that sometimes when people do degree apprenticeships, that those individuals aren't necessarily valued as much in the company or aren't being given like actual work or responsibilities. Have you had any experience with that, or do they treat you the same as everyone else?
Luckily, I haven't personally, but I have spoken to other people, and it has been a theme that has occurred in the sense that, you know, you're not necessarily considered as a full-time employee or the same kind of weight. You're not given the same kind of responsibilities. I feel like here they really push for your development. They really want you to get immersed in everything. They want you to feel like you are just as valued as any other employee. So in terms of my experience, fortunately, I haven't necessarily felt less than. I felt like very much part of the team. I've always been included, always been given responsibilities. I just feel like they're more understanding of the fact that I am still learning and I am quite new to the team. But for me, fortunately, I haven't had that experience.
To be honest, I would say the same. Being a graduate software engineer, coming in with that entry level role, I guess I probably viewed myself as lower than the others. And they always like reiterated and emphasized that that's not the case. I may be new and like I'm learning, but I'm the same as everyone else. So they always wanted to give me the same opportunities. Of course, maybe a little bit more support, but they was open to letting me ask as many questions as I wanted, setting up any calls if I had any doubts and things. And yeah, I would say that even if you are joining the tech industry through an entry level role, then it's not typically the case that you'll be treated any differently than other employees, because they know they're there to help build you up. That's the point of those entry level roles. Also another question in the chat, and I really like this one because it's really nice. Do you believe that there are any potential advantages to being a Black woman in the tech industry? I would say yes, but I want you all to answer first.
In the design space, I would say definitely. I think as a UX designer, you have to make designs for everyone. And I come from, obviously, being a Black woman and being a Muslim woman, I'm able to like look at myself and be able to like create designs for people just like me. If there wasn't anyone like me on the team, that we would probably have some issues in it, like, for example. So I would say, especially in the design, it's user experience design. Every single user deserves to be represented. And I think that's why you need like your team to look like the world, basically. So yeah, in the design space, diversity is really important.
Yeah, to add to this, I mean, I work purely in data and engineering space. So I don't see that like as much as I know Sumaya's perspective may bring, but for me, it's more like the advantage is we are diversifying the workforce. I'm seeing that it's more reflective of the UK in general, right? Like, you walk out in the street, it's multicultural, you go to work, it's multicultural, you feel good, right? And also it gives space and opportunities to also push forward, right? Like we're infiltrating to the mid-level to senior level spaces, diversifying that as well. And it just helps because it's a lot more comfortable environment, right? Like in meeting new people, I've got a bunch of colleagues who from countries that I maybe have never heard of before. I'm learning about their culture and like celebrations that they also go through as much as they are learning from me. So yeah, it's just a good fun in general, I think.
I think for me, yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few opportunities come. I think it's helped me in that sense as well, slightly in the sense that obviously they are trying to push that representation. There are still a lot of misconceptions. Oh, sorry. There are still a few misconceptions around tech and the industry and what it has to provide. Obviously, being a woman of color, especially, and then being Black as well. I'd say that, yeah, I've been called to do different things. And, because I'm very big in like the apprentice space as well, I like talking about apprenticeships and getting in young. I'd say a few opportunities have come from that and I've used it to my own advantage as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think having that opportunity to have that sort of culture exchange, put yourself out there, really represent other people. And like you said, Sumaya, if we're not there, then how do you like really do something on behalf of us? I feel like we need to be there to provide those designs, provide those solutions. And I feel like, yeah, no, there are, of course there are disadvantages, but I think it's great being a Black woman in tech because you're changing the game. Like if you're joining a team where it is fully white males, then there's a chance that they may all have the same sort of like, I don't know, train of thought or like the way that they think. Of course, that's different for everyone anyway. Having those different minds and different backgrounds, you're going to think about things differently. You're going to have that different perspective. So I would say that there are definitely advantages. And then another question, which is one that I already prepared, but I'll let them take credit. Do you have any advice that you would give to your younger self or just any young Black girls trying to get into the tech industry?
That's such a cute answer and question. I feel like it's going to make me really emotional speaking about this. I think I would just say to my younger self just to keep going and to keep persevering. I remember when I don't know if there's any kids in school. I'm assuming kids in school watching this. I would say I remember when I did my GCSEs, and this isn't something to tell you guys to like not do your work because obviously it's important to like make sure you do well. But I remember when I failed my GCSE in art and ICT, and obviously working in design, that's pretty much what I'm kind of doing on a day-to-day basis. I just genuinely like completely writ off any sort of tech related job in my head because I just thought I was never really going to do that. I wasn't really interested in it. And what's crazy is obviously those grades are important because you need to do well in school. But at the same time, no one's asked me what my GCSEs or my A-levels in years. So at the same time, I feel like honestly, I would just say to myself, just to keep it, just relax. It's going to be fine. Everything will work out, and not to be so worried all the time. That's what I would say to myself.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'd just say to just be open-minded and don't try and restrict yourself in any sort of way. Look out for opportunities, take that initiative to go and search for opportunities. Yeah, because obviously when it came to going down the degree apprenticeship route, it wasn't necessarily as common. I feel like recently it's been getting more hype, but back when I was doing it, not many people were going down that route, and there were quite a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people were almost looking down on me for going down that route. But I stayed firm in that decision that I made. So just going out there, seeing what is available to you. And I found that for myself. I actively went to search for it. So yeah, don't care too much about what people say, do what's best for you, find your passion, and yeah, just go for it, basically.
I really agree to that. I think, yeah, absolutely going for it. If I could tell my younger self anything, it is, explore computer science, like go for it and actually just do it. Like I always felt like the computer science students were so cool, like they get to code all day and like actually build stuff, but I was kind of just taking the safe route. In my opinion, I was thinking it's a safe route to maybe just be like an English teacher or something. Again, I realized it wasn't for me. So yeah, anything I would say, go for it. Like take the computer science classes, go to college, study at university. I think it's good fun.
Yeah, to be honest, I agree with everything. I was fortunate enough to be in a school where they let me take A-level computer science on my own, and typically in schools it will be a thing where you need a certain number of students before they're willing to run that subject. And when I took computer science A-level, I was in year 12, so I was doing my AS. A girl approached me from the year above and she was like, "Oh, that's so cool that you're studying computer science. I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to be the only one like doing it. I don't want to be alone." And I think it kind of sucked because I thought, oh, that's a shame that people will potentially pass up the opportunity because they think, well, I don't want to be the only one. And I went to a girls' school, so the chances of people wanting to study computer science, at least at the time, was low. So I feel like it is important to just go for it. Just try it. There's no reason not to. If you want to do it, then just go for it. Um, and Fatma, you were saying that like you'd encourage your younger self to go down this route and explore computer science. And we've got a question here in the chat that where you mentioned your CFG degree and your master's. Do you think that one was more helpful than the other than like when you were landing your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think the computer science masters is really great and giving me that foundation in computer science, right? But also, I came out of it not feeling like I had enough experience. And you look at these job postings and you're like, I don't know any of these words. I don't know any of these tools. I don't have 5 years experience, even for these junior roles. So I think doing a bootcamp allowed me to kind of really drill down and like get that like raw technical skills, which is what I wanted, right? To actually learn technologies that I can use to build like products and stuff, right? And it just so happened that when I was applying for it, it was just the first cohort. They said actually we also have sponsoring bodies that can allow you to get an engineering position with their teams. And I'm seeing more and more of these things come up, right? We have these boot camps that have now partners with companies and they sponsor positions. So what's more beneficial for me had been the coding boot camp. And I love the idea it's again, it's open to anyone in the future, right? Like who wants to go into it. So take advantage of these things, right? Yes, we are underrepresented. Me, I wave that flag. I am a Black female Muslim person to get these positions and get sponsored by BT. And, you know, thankfully I made it in. So take advantage of the schemes that are available to you to get you into these positions.
Yeah, that's really lovely to hear. I think, yeah, definitely make the most of it. If there are opportunities open to you, then you should definitely go for it. Let me just check the chat one more time. Oh, okay. People always ask about salary, so I think I might as well go for it. What's the highest paid sector in the tech industry?
I don't think it's design. I don't think it's design. I don't know. I think it's project managers or engineers. I'm not sure.
I think to add to this, it's more like you think about it like in terms of strands of areas, right? So for me, I work in data. I immediately tried mapping out what's the progression for that, right? So if I wanted to specialize in it, where am I going to go? So if I'm talking about what's the highest positions, currently what's in my mind is the goal that I'm working towards. Maybe it's some type of data cloud architect or principal architect, someone to oversee the whole kind of data streams for a certain workforce and design solutions for them technically. But yeah, like I said, I think it depends on the area that you're working in and where you can kind of progress into.
Yeah, I agree with that basically.
Yeah, I think it's a hard question to answer. There's definitely loads of routes where you can progress in the tech industry. So I guess it depends on, yeah, what sort of specific like career path you're trying to go down. And then we have another question here. I'm gonna switch up just a little bit. So it's about apprenticeship. So Hannah, when you were looking for your degree apprenticeship, what was your process? How did you apply? Where were you looking? Were you just kind of applying to everything and anything? Like, what was your approach?
Yeah, there wasn't much available, to be honest. I initially heard about it through somebody at a careers fair. So he was a degree apprentice at the time and he walked me through his experience. And that was where I first got the idea of what a degree apprenticeship was. And yeah, from that I was sold. I was sold on it. We had a conversation. He was basically telling me he was getting paid to study. So I knew from there. I'd say it was just down to my own research. So there are quite a few different websites that list apprenticeship vacancies. So it was just going on Google, finding those websites, putting in my preferences, like my location and the kind of level of apprenticeship I want to do. Because obviously there's a few different levels. You can do master level, you could do like GCSE level, you could do A level apprenticeship, if that makes sense. So, and then obviously I'm doing a degree apprenticeship. So I was just looking for those kind of things. I was going on company websites, seeing if they offer it. So it was a lot of me actively searching for it because I found that at the time there wasn't many resources. But yeah, once I found out about the different apprenticeships available and the different companies offering apprenticeships, that's when I started the process. And with degree apprenticeships, there's quite a long process. They are quite competitive. So you can imagine like 4 or 5 different stages. You start off with the initial application form with your CV and things like that. And then it goes into like an assessment center stage where you work with applicants. So I don't know, I was doing so much at a time. But yeah, I eventually landed where I did. That was with IBM. I think the whole process took about 4 months. But yeah, it was just me applying to lots of different companies. I did get lots of different rejections as well. So it's just about, yeah, going. But I think right now there's a lot more out there. I know that UCAS does have like a page dedicated to apprenticeships, where you can find lots of information about apprenticeships and how to apply and where to start looking. Because I do understand it's quite a hard thing to navigate. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Hannah. And I know we've just about hit the time, but I want to ask one more question to each of you, just to wrap this up. Is there a Black woman that you look up to? And if so, who is it?
I was going to say the person that I look up to. I saw this question in the brief and I was really struggling because I was trying to figure out who exactly I would say. And as moist as it sounds, I would say my mum, only because she's like made so many sacrifices to allow me to be where I am today. Like being an immigrant herself and like being so supportive of me as well. I think I would say she's definitely like someone I really look up to, and she's probably my role model for sure.
After you, Fatma, sorry.
All right then. So I think for myself, I don't have like specifically a Black woman that I look up to, but I've got so many women that I look up to in general that have made me who I am today. From my mentor initially when I was in my boot camp, to my other mentor that I had that I would just kind of fire out emails and jump on calls with because I was feeling stressed or whatever, and she'd like help me like navigate through any issues I was facing, to all of the managers that I've had at BT, and like they've been really amazing at directing me to a lot of our senior women at BT, because there are quite a few that hold really high up levels, and just meeting them has been like, oh, this is really cool and amazing. And some of them have been really amazing to even mentor us back and like have little workshops monthly with us. So yeah, I would say there's a collection of women, and for me I just log them continuously and they will inspire me to like try to pay it forward to the next people that I'm mentoring myself.
Yeah, same here. I wouldn't say I have someone necessarily specifically in my mind, but I'd say there are quite a few Black women that do inspire me. I'd say particularly at work as well. Within our Black community, we have events. So I meet with like lots of different Black women that are doing their thing in tech. And it is really inspiring. I'm just like, yes, you're doing your thing. I'd love to be in a position like that one day. And yeah, they're just being boss babes basically. So it is really inspiring, and it's like, okay, if they can do it, they're making their way up in the company, they've held in senior positions, respected as well, then I can do it too. So yeah, seeing people like that within close proximity to me is really inspiring.
That's really lovely to hear, and I'm glad we ended on this question. I like it personally, but I mean, I wrote the question, so of course I'm gonna like it. But yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you. Thank you to the 3 of you. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Fatma. Thank you, Sumaya. Thank you so much to everyone else who came and listened to the panel talk today. I just want to say, don't forget to follow Next Tech Girls on social media, because they'll post more opportunities, whether that's work experience or more online events like this one. It's at Next Tech Girls pretty much on everywhere, on like TikTok, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So you'll be able to see upcoming events. And also on the website, which is nexttechgirls.com, you can sign up for the email newsletter and you can join the community. And again, find out more about the events that Next Tech Girls runs. So thank you so much to everyone who attended. Thank you again to our panelists, and hopefully we'll see you at another event soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.